Welcome to Minutes with Moynahan. I'm Tim Moynahan, and I'm here this afternoon to discuss with you the outrage that occurred at the Big Apple Motel in August of this year. Now, I'm back talking to you about something I've discussed before, and something particularly has precipitated what I believe is the need to come back to you and continue the story. It is just the first chapter. The investigation, my investigation and those of my associates into this matter goes on. But I received, just yesterday morning, I received an email from a young lady at Eastern Connecticut University. She said she was a student there, I certainly believe that, and that she had been given an assignment in her class to write about a women's studies class, to write about a subject of her choosing. And this young lady, who shall remain nameless, but nothing to be ashamed of, but I don't want to identify her unless she approves of it, and I haven't talked to her yet, even though I have returned her email. By the way, the email was addressed both to me and to Mayor O'Leary. To me, I'm supposing, because I have been identified in various news reports as the attorney for the owner of the Big Apple Motel, that's Aziz Ahmad, and his son, Umar Ahmad. The entire Ahmad family, but those two family members particularly are on the forefront, the front lines of what was assaultive, riotous behavior in August against their establishment and against their persons. So the young lady wrote, and she picked a subject. She said it was sexual trafficking, something that is one of the biggest industries in the world. And so far, that's true. I know that. Likely you know that. It's an international disaster. And more young women are preyed upon, and young boys, than we can imagine. So good for her. Kudos that she picked such an interesting subject and one which deserves our full attention, and indeed it deserves our participation in resolving and mitigating the awful things that happen with sex trafficking. But anyway, this is what got my attention. Apparently it was why she wrote to me. She said Waterbury sex trafficking has been occurring for a long time, and little girls and women are being trafficked right outside of where they live. I don't have that information. It poses an interesting question. The fact that this young lady poses it shouldn't be taken lightly. But let's go to what is relevant for this discussion. She said a 19-year-old girl has recently been held against her will and tortured in a motel amid Waterbury, and there are accusations there was sex trafficking involved. There have been over 700 calls from this motel to the police, and that isn't under investigation. The motel remains open to leaving the people of Waterbury in despair and more women at risk of being pawned into the world of sex trafficking. People decided, she says, to stand up a few months ago and go outside the Waterbury Big Apple Motel, where there have been drug raids, sex trafficking, to petition it to close down. Waterbury Police Department, she says, hasn't spoken on sex trafficking because they say that Connecticut laws prohibit them from giving out any details. There was even a Waterbury officer linked to a sex trafficking operation. Sex trafficking is seen as a secret. Well, it's gotten to the point when enough is enough. This young lady is indignant, as she should be, if any of the things that she recited about the incident in Waterbury, which, by the way, is a reference to the Big Apple Motel, if any of that was true, she should be indignant. And more than indignant. And I think it's very laudable that because she thinks this is true, she's going to do research in it. But I want to take this opportunity to convey to you that the young lady's beliefs, conclusions, opinions, they're all wrong. They're all wrong. How could she possibly come to those conclusions when none of it is true? Now, there's a reason for that. She said, mostly I wrote this letter to bring your attention to the need for justice against sex trafficking and crimes in Waterbury. Hopefully, she says to the Mayor O'Leary, and myself, you'll feel the need to speak out and make a change to help stop sex trafficking and crimes in Waterbury. So I do feel the need to speak out. And I want to speak out now, again. I'd like to speak out directly to her. I will, after this telecast, this YouTube video, I will write to her and invite her to watch it. I have invited her to contact me and said I'd be very happy to discuss this matter in great detail with her. The problem is that this entire situation was begun by a lie. The lie was that a young lady had been kidnapped, was being held at the Apple Motel against her will, was being sexually abused, and was being tortured. A lie. Blatant, patently a lie. The young lady was never there. She was never tortured. She was never there. Let that suffice. Moreover, what was described at the beginning as a peaceful protest had no basis. There was no reason for a protest, which, by the way, consisted of almost 200 people, signatures obtained by a ringleader of the protests who knew, and the parents of this young lady knew, and other people knew who participated, that it was all a lie, an outrageous, despicable lie. A week before, there had been a Facebook posting by the mother of the young man, who was the boyfriend of the missing girl. The girl on August 7th had returned to her home. She was not missing in the sense of being kidnapped. She had no complaint. She was not harmed. She wouldn't talk to the police. And so the story dwindled, but the protests went on. And the claims of sex trafficking and drug dealing and complaints about all of which circulated in the community, to the great harm of the Muslim American immigrants, proud Americans who'd been running an excellent establishment, being of service to many people in need outside of their regular customers, FEMA people, many Puerto Rican people who were displaced by the hurricane in Puerto Rico, and many, many other aspects. But my focus now is to direct your attention to the devastation that a lie created. Bad enough that the motel was damaged terribly, that there were people, young men, climbing on the roof at the time of the assault on the building, kicking down the neon sign. At one point, breaking windows. 6 big pane glass windows were broken. And members of the mob, because that's what they were, mobsters, mob members, entered the building, intimidated people, spit on employees, damaged property. Now, I say that's an outrage. And that's terrible. The business was deeply affected, but the good news is the resourcefulness and the resilience of the Ahmed family will prevail. And I reach out to those of you in the community, you will rally around these people at the appropriate time when they reopen under the new name of the Brass City Motel. That's another story for another episode. But let me emphasize and underscore what prompted this particular video appearance. The fact that a young lady, clearly intelligent, highly motivated, well-intentioned, on November 28th emailed me Now remember, this is an incident that occurred on the 14th of August. She emailed me all these months later and repeated the lies, which we know are lies, and which I hope to have the opportunity to discuss with her and point out to her in person. But the damage, the reputational damage, is incalculable that was done to the Ahmed family. They're still repairing that. I'm still addressing it, and we will address it in the days and months to come, if necessary, with the institution of legal proceedings. Because we are accumulating evidence against the people who were the perpetrators and who lied. There hasn't been enough investigative reporting on this. A simple report or two in the newspaper that such and such a thing happened, that property was damaged and destroyed. But why? And who? And where? Where did the instructions come from? In whose mind or minds was initiated this devastating assault? So we're going to get to that eventually, and hopefully not before too long. We do have evidence that the family had experienced this kind of disappearance in the past, and they had cooperation, by the way, in the very early days, full cooperation from the Ahmed family. Again, I'm getting a bit ahead of the story. This is the first chapter. This first chapter is addressed not only to all of you, but specifically to, we'll call her the young lady from Eastern Connecticut State University. I'll email her later again this evening. It will be my second email. I'll address her to this video, and I hope she'll get in touch with me, and I hope I can dispel for her the wrong ideas that she has that are so defamatory and damaging to an innocent, hardworking family. They are minorities, and we generally are more sympathetic to minorities because they're minorities, and they have challenges often for that fact, by that fact, that those of us who are not don't have, but we are empathetic to. So I think that should be sufficient for now. I hope that gives you a good idea about the need to get interested and participate, to fight lies wherever they show up, and when they persist like this, we must join and fight them all the harder. I hope that if you've liked this program, you can hit the button, say like, and you can then hit another button and subscribe, because I'm going to be coming to you with Moynahan Minutes regularly. We're going to talk about a whole array of subjects, but right now, because of this and what preceded it, the Big Apple Motel is the focus. Thank you for your attention. It's nice being with you. I look forward to the next time.